After getting back together with Gabriel, I finally let things go. He was photographed staying overnight in a newly famous starlet's hotel suite. I responded faster than the studio's official clarification. A friend teased me, "You're not even mad? What are you, a Ninja Turtle now?" I suddenly thought of the day we broke up. Gabriel had said, "You're too greedy. You want everything. And in the end, you get nothing." Back then, I wanted absolutes. I wanted purity. I dragged my suitcase away without ever looking back. Now, I've learned my lesson. I said calmly, "People shouldn't be too greedy. Mr. Gabriel gives me money and resources. I'm already very satisfied. I've become generous, calm, and tolerant. Yet Gabriel keeps asking me again and again, why don't I love him anymore?" Chapter 1. The lighting in the private room was dim. I sat beside the PR manager. On my phone screen were photos of Gabriel tangled up with Lily. "Is it okay if the statement is posted like this?" I turned the edited text toward the manager. It emphasized that the two were only discussing a script, accused paparazzi of malicious editing, and clearly stated that I was also present. The manager froze for a moment, not responding immediately. Instead, one of Gabriel's friends burst out laughing. "Eva, have you been adjusted into a Ninja Turtle? You weren't like this before." I didn't rush to reply. Only after the manager confirmed the details did I turn to look at the friend who had spoken. "Why do you say that? Back then, when Gabriel and Lily shared a bowl of spicy soup, you almost turned the entire entertainment industry upside down." Everyone fell silent. Most of the people present were old acquaintances. They all knew how badly things had exploded between Gabriel and me. All because of Lily. That time, I won the fight. Gabriel publicly acknowledged me as his official girlfriend. It ended with Lily crying and posting a video statement, saying she lacked boundaries. I smugly thought I had won a great victory. But when I turned around, I received a call from the hospital. The specialist Gabriel had arranged for my mother was suddenly reassigned. My mother's treatment had just reached a critical stage. I went insane, begging everywhere, and finally managed to meet that elderly expert. He waved his hands repeatedly. "Eva, take your mother abroad for treatment." At the same time, I violated my contract by going public with my relationship and had to pay the company $50 million in damages. The astronomical penalty crushed me. My mother's condition worsened day by day in a general ward. I knelt outside the club for 3 hours before I was finally allowed into Gabriel's private room. Then Lily slapped me more than 10 times under the excuse of auditioning. Still not satisfied, she forced me to down 5 bottles of red wine. Before I lost consciousness, Gabriel leaned down and looked at me. "Eva, if you'd been this obedient earlier, wouldn't everything have been fine?" Chapter 2. I raised my glass and clinked it with a friend's. I was young and ignorant before. I caused everyone a lot of trouble. In the private room, there was an investor every 3 steps, a director every 5. I went around toasting each of them, flawless in manners, until Gabriel hurried in. Behind him followed the female lead of tonight's trending topic, Lily. She still wore that timid look, but the glance she threw at me was filled with undisguised provocation. Lily had never liked me. I stood up, ready to leave, but Gabriel spotted me immediately. He wanted to kiss me. Instinctively, I tried to dodge. He had just been photographed at a hotel with Lily. I didn't know how far things had gone. It all felt a little dirty, so I tilted my head, reached out to straighten his collar, and said softly, "Go home early." I picked up my bag just as I was about to walk out the door. Gabriel's voice chased after me, suppressing some kind of emotion. "Don't you have anything you want to ask?" Chapter 3. I froze in place. For a moment, I didn't know how to react. Gabriel's tone unconsciously softened. "Lily landed a female lead role and wants to boost her popularity. She asked me to help her stir up hype." He raised 3 fingers. "I swear, nothing happened between us. If this were before, I would have made a huge scene. Doesn't Lily have a husband? Does she really need to hype things up with you? Does she have to create some ridiculous plot where 2 domineering CEOs fight over her?" But now, I just stared silently at the tip of my shoes. Seeing this, Gabriel sighed. He took a paper box out from behind him. It was my favorite cheesecake. The only shop that sold it was downstairs at the hotel where they'd been photographed. In the past, after I finished events, Gabriel would wait for me at the hotel with it, wearing a roguish grin. Big star. Afraid you won't have the stamina later. Then afterward, we'd share it together. Later, our relationship worsened. I never ate it again, and I stopped liking it. Still, I took the box. Thank you, boss. Gabriel frowned. I hurriedly corrected myself, my tone tinged with a bit of coquettishness. Gabriel. I was hesitating over what nickname to use when posting the statement earlier, so it just slipped out. Sorry. Only then did his expression ease. I'll have the driver take you. I nodded obediently. Then, at the corner, I tossed the cake into the trash. I called a rideshare, opened the door, and got in. Watching the night scenery blur past, I suddenly remembered, I used to be the only artist under Gabriel's company. After Lily arrived, she became the special one. Once, I was rushing to an event and took one of the company cars first. After the event ended, I won an award, but Gabriel was unhappy. Lily said softly, weak and pitiful, that I must not have done it on purpose, must not have intentionally left her behind, must not have intentionally excluded her from attending. I was completely baffled. The company had so many cars. Why did she have to ride with me? Just that one sentence made Gabriel explode. That's enough. If you can't tolerate Lily, then figure things out yourself from now on. And that very night, on the way to the celebration banquet, he left me behind alone. From that rainy night, when I walked in my evening gown, soaked and miserable, all the way to the venue, I knew the person he wanted to protect was someone I wasn't even allowed to question. Chapter 4. The way home was a bit long. I slumped sideways in the seat and fell asleep. My first meeting with Gabriel kept flashing through my mind. Back then, I had just graduated from the dance academy. I originally planned to live quietly as a teacher, but then my mom was diagnosed with lupus, and our family savings were wiped out overnight. By coincidence, I saw a casting call for background actors in my social media feed. So I went. That day, I played a concubine forced to kneel under the scorching sun and earned $500. Squatting by the roadside, I carefully did the math. $500 a day, $15,000 a month. After paying for my mom's medical bills, I could still afford to rent a basement room near the hospital. I was very satisfied and couldn't help smiling, my eyes curving up. When I turned my head, I realized there was a man squatting beside me. His expression was even worse than that of the main wife who had just been acting out a scene of catching me cheating. So I handed him the unopened bottle of a decalcium drink, passing on good luck. I just solved my own problem. Hope everything goes well for you too. He instinctively tried to refuse, but after looking up at me, he raised an eyebrow and took it anyway. Behind the locust tree at the back of the set became my base. During meal breaks, I always ran into that man there. All the AD calcium drinks that came with my meals ended up in his stomach. After 10 bottles, I finally learned his name. Gabriel. I patted his shoulder with emotion. Same name, different fate. The big shot investor in the next crew is also called Gabriel. He lies around counting money, while you have to squat here waiting for work. Then I grabbed his hand and examined it carefully. I'm telling you, you've got a great future ahead. When you make it big, don't forget me. He choked and started coughing. Then he suddenly looked at me very seriously. Ever thought about properly signing with an agency? I sighed. A rookie like me, who would want to sign me? Gabriel leaned lazily against the tree. I will. I froze for 3 seconds. Then I snatched back his AD calcium drink. You've got milk-drunk delirium. Don't drink this anymore. Chapter 5. Gabriel had been good to me before, but that was all before Lily appeared. One day, Gabriel told me that his childhood friend's wife wanted to enter the entertainment industry and asked me to guide her more. Later, I learned through roundabout ways that he and that childhood friend had fallen out. All because of Lily. After his friend married well, Lily spent several years living comfortably as a wealthy housewife. When she grew bored, she said she wanted to work again. Please, Gabriel, you know I'm stupid. The only thing I have going for me is my face. Just let me join your company, okay? You wouldn't have the heart to see others bully me, right? Fine, my little ancestor, whatever you want. Gabriel's voice was lazy, yet his indulgence was completely undisguised. After listening to the voice message, I quietly put the phone back where it was. A sour ripple spread through my chest. It was the first time I had ever heard him speak so gently to someone. If only I had been able to recognize my own position back then, maybe I wouldn't have sunk so deep and ended up this miserable. In my dream, I frowned lightly. The penalty fee was almost fully paid off. My mother's treatment only had 3 more phases to go before stabilizing, after which it could be handed over to a new doctor. I'd done the math. After covering my mom's medical expenses, if I took on a few more jobs, I could go live abroad. Between Gabriel and me, everything was finally about to be settled. Chapter 6. Tonight at the private room wasn't a total loss. I got an audition invitation from a director. He was excellent at making art house films. They might not cause much of a stir domestically, but abroad they were highly acclaimed. The director and I hit it off immediately. We scheduled the audition for the next day on the spot. When Gabriel got home, I was holding a perfume bottle, rehearsing. The role I was auditioning for was a mute girl, one who had to express silent pain and longing purely through movement and expression. Gabriel pushed the door open, then suddenly stopped. When I turned around, he was staring fixedly at the perfume bottle in my hand. Damn it! I cursed my own stupidity. I'd been too absorbed in the script. After that, I grabbed a bottle at random and acted until I lost all sense of the world, never noticing it was the one Lily had given him. That night, when Gabriel came back from a business trip, he casually placed the perfume at the entrance. I thought it was a gift for me. That same night, wearing the skimpiest nightdress I owned, I carefully sprayed the perfume on my neck and even tied a black lace bow on myself. Gabriel's face darkened on the spot. He grabbed my hair and dragged me in front of the mirror. Eva, look at yourself, this slutty state. Do you think this perfume is something you're allowed to touch? The green, youthful scent of pomelo filled the air, like the smell of an unattainable youth. Through the mirror, I saw his phone screen was still lit. On it was Lily's first perfume commercial, looping over and over. I had no idea how many times. Only then did I understand. This scent was their youth that had ended without result. It was the regret Lily handed him across the years. And I, not knowing my place, had sprayed it. When Gabriel saw me staring unblinkingly at his phone, he shoved me away and lit a cigarette. Eva, he narrowed his eyes and exhaled a smoke ring. Have you forgotten what your status is? Lily is already married. There are some things I won't spell out too clearly, but there will always be a place for her with me. Even if I marry someone else openly, that won't change. As if remembering something, he gave an extremely malicious smile. Besides, who says I can't marry anyone I want? Why would I marry an actress and make her my wife? Chapter 7. Heavenly Bodhisattva. Just because I look sharp, I always get cast as vicious supporting roles. But I never wanted to actually be a vicious supporting character, stealing someone else's place. I even used to treat Lily like a homewrecker, thinking she was cheating within her marriage, and even worse offense. Turns out the shameless interloper was someone else entirely. An overwhelming sense of humiliation drowned me instantly. I threw on a coat and rushed downstairs. When I burst into the bar, I happened to run into Gabriel's group of friends. They hadn't dispersed yet. After several glasses of hard liquor, the emotions I'd suppressed for so long finally exploded. Aren't we fucking dating? Isn't dating supposed to be wholehearted? Isn't it supposed to be exclusive? The private room fell silent for a moment. Someone reached out and touched my forehead. Little sister, you've got a fever. Huh? Talking about the one with people like us? Only then did I realize. They all saw me as nothing more than a monkey jumping around. Sick. Truly sick. I smashed my glass onto the floor. Go enjoy your fucking threesomes and foursomes. I'm not playing along anymore. Chapter 8. That night, I scrubbed myself back and forth 10 times, until there wasn't even a trace of that perfume left on me. Then I decisively asked for a breakup. Dragging my suitcase, I left without looking back. I thought that even without Gabriel, I could still live a decent life, but I was bound by a contract. Out of respect for Gabriel, no one in the industry dared to hire me. Later, after begging everyone I could think of, I finally found a short drama crew willing to cast me. What I didn't expect was that on the very first day of filming, Gabriel still appeared in the investor seats. He leaned back in a leather chair, calm and unhurried, watching me. Eva, resources have to be fought for yourself. I smiled bitterly. Boss, my gastritis hasn't healed yet. He straightened the hem of his suit. Is that so? Then I'll allow you to drink from a glass. No need to chug the bottle. The entire room went silent. I started pouring alcohol into myself, glass after glass, until my stomach hurt so badly I curled up, and finally recognized reality, whether Gabriel treated me as a toy or a shield. It made no difference. He didn't love me, but he also wouldn't let me go. I couldn't escape his control. Only obedience could buy me a chance to breathe. He said, Eva, from now on, be good. If you're good, won't everything be fine? In the past, I would have pointed at his nose and told him to get lost. Back then, I didn't understand my own position. I always thought that because we had shared hardship together, I was special. But again and again, he told me I was overthinking it. The next day, wearing striped hospital pajamas, I leaned gently and obediently into his arms. 2 clear streams of tears slid down my face. Gabriel, I won't fight with you anymore, and I won't love you anymore either. At that moment, suppressing the goosebumps, I wrapped my arms around him and acted coquettish. I'm sorry, baby, I really didn't notice. Gabriel was quiet for a long time. Then he said softly, You're being so good now. It really makes me want to marry you. I lowered my head, hiding all my emotions, and replied softly, How about I get married after I finish filming director Elias's movie? Chapter 9. I passed Elias's project smoothly. The filming required finishing domestic shoots first, then going abroad for locations. The autumn scenery in Beiping was beautiful, but no one had the heart to linger over it. The entire crew ran like clockwork, without a moment's rest. That day, I started work at 5 in the morning, and filmed until 2 a.m., so exhausted I could barely stand. Just after removing my makeup, I received a message from one of Gabriel's friends. Eva, come over. Gabriel's drunk, rubbing my temples in exhaustion. I resigned myself and got dressed. When I arrived, the private room was still lively. Gabriel was lying with his head on Lily's lap, while she rhythmically massaged him to sober him up. I hesitated for a moment, then I still walked over and softly told Lily about Gabriel's habits when drunk. His stomach isn't good. Don't give him strong tea. Warm water with a bit of honey is better. He might want water in the middle of the night. Remember to put it by the bed. The air suddenly went quiet. Then scattered laughter broke out. Lost. Who said Eva would flip the table on the spot? Pay up. Someone wailed while pulling out their wallet. Damn, why does she seem like a completely different person after getting back together? Another voice chimed in teasingly. Eva, go on. Make a scene. Only then did it slowly dawn on me. They had been betting on my reaction. Amid the cheering, someone whistled. Impressive. No wonder Gabriel wants to marry her. This level of tolerance. If it were me, I'd marry her too. A rich second-generation guy wearing sapphire earrings wrapped an arm around his young girlfriend and shouted, See that? Even a big star behaves obediently in front of her man. Keep acting aloof and I'll replace you. The young girlfriend didn't hold back. She shot to her feet and pointed at his nose, yelling, Do you call that being obedient? That's called not caring at all. A pig-brained idiot who can't even tell liking from not liking. The rich kid's face went pale, and for a long while he couldn't say a word, watching her fiery demeanor. I couldn't help laughing too. A friend leaned in, curious. You're really not angry at all? I lifted my glass and answered carefully. Mr. Gabriel gives me resources and money. I'm grateful beyond words. People shouldn't be too greedy. After clinking glasses with everyone, I turned and left. No one noticed that Gabriel's eyelashes trembled slightly. His hand slipped into his pocket, touching the velvet ring box, and he only felt a sudden, inexplicable tightness in his chest. Chapter 10. On the day we transferred overseas for filming, Gabriel rushed back in a hurry. Why didn't you tell me you were leaving? He slammed me against the wall, breath ragged, leaning in to kiss me, and I raised my hand and slapped him. The sharp crack echoed through the room. Gabriel froze. So did I. Damn it, I cursed myself inwardly. I'd only been comfortable for a few days and already forgot how miserable my past had been. Regretting my impulse, I softened my voice and coaxed him. The domestic shoot just wrapped. The whole crew is moving overseas to continue filming. Don't overthink it, I'll be back soon. Gabriel rested his chin on my shoulder, his voice muffled. Eva, will you not come back? My heart jolted. My mom's transfer plan hadn't even started yet, and I hadn't told anyone about wanting to leave. Gabriel must have been triggered by something Lily said again. I forced myself to stay calm, pulled up the cruise itinerary for him to see, and patiently explained the filming schedule and timeline. Only then did he finally let me go. Before I left, Gabriel handed me an envelope with unusual care. Open it when you miss me. I nodded obediently and casually stuffed the envelope into my bag. The days of filming overseas were free and fulfilling. After we captured the final shot in Denmark, most of the crew returned home. I stayed behind under the excuse of taking a vacation. That day, I was walking along the beach with my mother, supporting her as we strolled. We happened to run into a pair of local newlyweds taking selfies with a camera. I took the initiative to help them record a blessing video. May you be happy forever. The bride was delighted. She turned the camera toward me and smiled as she replied, and I wish this beautiful Eastern girl will soon find the happiness that belongs to her. Chapter 11. Scumbags POV. That video was posted by the bride on social media. Somehow, it made its way back to the domestic internet. The private room was thick with smoke. Someone suddenly raised their phone. On the screen was Eva's video on a Nordic beach. Whoa, he let out a strange cry, zoomed in on her ring finger, and passed the phone around. Big spender. Gabriel, that ring's worth at least a whole villa, right? Another friend wrapped an arm around his date and chimed in. Looks like Gabriel's finally settling down. Time to start planning the bachelor party. Lily, if you're gonna offer yourself, do it soon. Any later and you'll be the mistress. Hearing that, Lily lowered her head shyly, her voice soft and sweet. Gabriel, I'm willing. Gabriel felt restless and irritated. He snatched the phone away. Half a month. It had been a full half-month since he'd received a single message from Eva. No itinerary updates. No replies to texts. Not even a perfunctory greeting. On the screen, Eva's ring finger was magnified. The oversized diamond dazzled painfully. That ring. Gabriel's voice was hoarse, laced with disbelieving fury. Lily was still acting coy. It's even bigger than mine. Gabriel, I want one too. Before she could finish, Gabriel slammed the phone onto the floor. Glass shards flew. The entire room fell into stunned silence. Through clenched teeth, he forced out a sentence. That's fucking not the ring I gave her. Lily's face went white. She instinctively reached for his sleeve. Gabriel didn't even look at her. He grabbed his coat and stormed out, leaving behind a room full of people staring at one another. He got into the car and, for the first time, tried to contact Eva proactively, only to realize that every possible channel had been blocked. Just then, Elias's assistant called. They politely asked about Miss Eva's availability for her next project, saying the director was very much looking forward to working with her again. Gabriel opened his mouth, only to realize that Eva's contract seemed to have quietly expired half a year ago, and that astronomical breach of contract penalty he used to joke about as leverage over her. She had actually paid it off, bit by bit. Like a little hamster hoarding grain. He called the private hospital. What he got was a nurse's surprised response. Didn't you know? Once the treatment plan set by the specialist you hired was completed, Miss Eva insisted on transferring hospitals. She said she had discussed it with you. He suddenly remembered those days after they got back together. He'd watched her run around non-stop. Even laughed and scolded her for being stupid, having a big tree to lean on yet refusing to enjoy the shade, insisting on exhausting herself. Back then, she had only smiled gently. Only now did he realize, while he wasn't paying attention, Eva had been quietly strengthening her wings, until she was confident enough to leave him. She rebuilt her life and career calmly and swiftly, and everything had already completely excluded him. Gabriel's hand trembled as he lit himself a cigarette, leaning against the car window. For the first time in his life, he felt a kind of helplessness bordering on panic. Chapter 12. A friend followed out, worried. and knocked on the car window. Gabriel, don't panic. There must be some misunderstanding. He pulled the friend back into the private room. In front of everyone, he dialed Eva's number. His tone was light, trying to smooth things over. Everyone knows how much Eva loves you. She's probably just mad that you got too close to Lily. Lower your head. Coax her for a few days, and this will all blow over. Unlike the constant busy signals Gabriel had been getting, the call was answered easily. But what came through was a warm, unfamiliar male voice, the background quiet, carrying a relaxed, domestic ease. Hello, Eva has just fallen asleep. May I ask who's calling? Is there anything you'd like me to pass along? Hello? Can you hear me? The friend froze, completely at a loss. In the dead silence, the rich second-generation guy's young girlfriend suddenly smiled. Eva's boyfriend has such a nice voice. He must be a very gentle person. Gabriel stared at her darkly. What did you say? The girl let out a cold laugh. What? Putting on an act now? The way you ground Eva down before, do you really think we were blind? The young rich guy beside her changed color and grabbed her arm. Shut the fuck up. Say less. She flung his hand away, fearless as she met Gabriel's terrifying gaze. What? You gonna hit someone now? You people, these so-called elites, see someone you like. Sweet talk her into your hands. Get bored. Then toss her aside. Too bad for you. I don't run in your circle. My parents died early, but they left me enough savings. I can cook for myself, fix plumbing, live without relying on a man, so you won't ever get to control me. After saying that, she grabbed her bag and swept her gaze across the room. Men and women wearing all kinds of expressions, her eyes filled with contempt. And you lot too. What kind of trash fills this room? Sleeping with in-laws. Keeping mistresses. Who among you actually treats women like people? A nest of perverts. Idiots. She slammed the door and left. The loud crash sealed the private room off from the outside world. Gabriel stood rigid, all the color drained from his face. It felt as if his heart were being squeezed, rolled, and crushed. The pain left him with only one thought. He had to find Eva. Immediately. Right now. No matter the cost. He had to keep her by his side. Chapter 13. Eva's POV. Sunlight streamed through the huge glass windows, falling on my mom and Dr. David. The examination had just ended. My mom struggled to squeeze out a few words. Thank you very much. David pushed up his glasses and smiled. If you really want to thank me, how about allowing me to pursue your daughter? His tone was half joking, half serious. Mainly because I've taken a liking to your daughter. Loving the house means loving the crow too, so I've been especially diligent with your treatment. The young nurse beside us stared wide-eyed. Her gaze darted back and forth between David, my mom, and David's ring finger. Finally, after the ward round ended, she couldn't help blurting out, Doctor, don't you already have a fiancé? Her cheeks puffed up in anger. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. I had just peeled an orange and stepped out of the elevator when I walked straight into the scene. David pressed his palms together, begging her repeatedly not to tell anyone, while I wheeled my mom out to get some sun. The nurse seized the chance to slip me a note. Don't be fooled by that scumbag's handsome, rich appearance. He's engaged and still wants to chase you. I pinched the note, held it in for a long moment. But in the end I couldn't help laughing out loud. I held out my right hand. Look, don't his ring and mine look like a matching pair? The nurse froze, then grew indignant. That jerk David did it on purpose. He was messing with me. I smiled and explained. I like dragging him into acting out scenes. Maybe he's caught the acting bug. The nurse left, turning back every few steps. On the lawn, my mom was animatedly communicating with an elderly Western lady, each using their own language and gestures. David stood not far away with his hands in his pockets, occasionally lowering his head to act as their translator. I leaned back against the bench, relaxed, a little dazed. How long had it been since I'd lived this freely? 2 years ago, Gabriel, Lily, and I went abroad together for an event. Halfway through, Lily suddenly wanted to eat plain noodle soup, so Gabriel arranged a private jet to take her away first. All he left for me, who'd overslept and was being urged by the hotel to check out, was a shopping list. It was filled with luxury items Lily wanted. The depths of winter were biting cold. I stood on a foreign street carrying bags upon bags. Yet, for no reason at all, a flicker of excitement rose in my heart. A crazy, bold thought surfaced clearly for the first time. What if I could stay forever in a place where no one knew me and no one could manipulate me at will? Once the seed of hope was planted, it began to grow wildly. From that time on, I used every opportunity to go abroad. After finishing the trivial errands Lily assigned me, I secretly shuttled between major medical institutions. I was clumsy. I often found myself flustered when faced with complicated medical terminology. Once, I arrived at the hospital where my target doctor worked. But because of the language barrier, I was sweating anxiously at the information desk. A kind man noticed my predicament. He took the initiative to approach and asked in Chinese if I needed help. In the end, he looked up at me in surprise. "So the person you're looking for is me. Sorry to have made it so difficult for you to find me. Miss Eva." Chapter 14. From that point on, David became my constant partner. On one hand, he helped me research and finalize treatment plans. On the other, he encouraged me to learn. In between my frantic efforts to make money, I would occasionally be summoned by Lily, just to be humiliated. I took it all calmly. No arguments, no scenes. I would only meekly go to Gabriel to ask for money and resources. Those days when the two of them treated me like a dog, they were clearly etched in my memory. Yet somehow felt as though they had passed a very, very long time ago. I was lost in thought. So much so that I didn't even notice when David came up behind me. He leaned against my side, smiling gently, still struggling with which dress to wear for the wedding. "If you really can't decide, just buy them all, one dress per hour. Just don't secretly place the orders. I won't help. Changing outfits is exhausting." I laughed and leaned against his shoulder. The sunlight was so warm it made me drowsy. But suddenly, I felt a sharp sense of unease, as if a pair of eyes were staring at me from the shadows. Instinctively, I turned my head to look. All I saw were swaying tree shadows. David immediately noticed something was off. "What's wrong?" I shook my head, suppressing the inexplicable anxiety in my chest, and buried my face in the hollow of his shoulder. Neither of us noticed that in the shadows of the tree-lined path in the distance, a telephoto lens was silently aimed straight at us. The image of David and me leaning against each other was captured. Almost at the same moment, Gabriel received a high-definition photo and a short message on his private phone back home. Found her. In the photo, Eva was leaning against a strange man's shoulder, smiling with curved brows and gentle eyes. It was the expression she had worn when he first met her, the expression he had never seen again, completely relaxed. Chapter 15. On the morning of the wedding, David went early to the rehabilitation center to pick up my mother. After he left, an indescribable sense of unease lingered around me. The makeup artist noticed my nervousness and smiled gently to reassure me. "Don't worry, sweetheart. It's just pre-wedding anxiety. Your husband has arranged everything perfectly." She softly adjusted my veil. "I'm going to do your eye makeup now. Please close your eyes." The makeup artist reached into her bag, but the expected touch of an eyeshadow brush never came. Instead, a sharp pain pierced my neck. I opened my eyes abruptly and saw in the mirror that the makeup artist was standing behind me, holding an empty syringe, expressionless. My whole body went limp as I fell backward. As my consciousness scattered, a tall man stepped forward and caught me steadily. He had lost a lot of weight. Even his expensive suit jacket looked loose on him, but the obsession in his eyes was terrifying. It was Gabriel. "Eva." He rubbed his cheek against my forehead, his voice filled with a sickly possessiveness. "I'm here to take you home." "You're insane." I struggled with the last of my strength. A bodyguard behind me instinctively moved to restrain me. Gabriel turned around and kicked him hard in the stomach. The man let out a muffled groan and doubled over. Gabriel shouted out of control, "Don't touch her." Then he lowered his head and looked at me. "Eva, this time, we're never separating again." Chapter 16. When I woke up, I found myself in an exquisitely furnished yet completely unfamiliar bedroom. My wedding dress had been replaced with a soft cashmere dress. Outside the window were silent snow-covered mountains and a lake. There were no recognizable landmarks. I didn't even know which country I was in. This was a place entirely unfamiliar to me. Gabriel was sitting on a sofa not far away. His eyes were bloodshot in a frightening way, yet the corners of his mouth were slightly curved in a smile. "Eva, you're awake. Would you like some breakfast?" I looked at him quietly. After a long while, I asked softly, "Gabriel, why are you doing this?" He began explaining incoherently. "I can't watch you marry someone else. Eva, the one you love is me. Let's try again, one last time." He took out his phone. He pulled up chat records from a very long time ago. They were messages I had sent him when we first got together. A list titled 100 Things Couples Must Do. Back then, I had been overflowing with joy, desperate to experience every ordinary yet beautiful moment with him. But he had never understood. What's the point of deliberately doing such trivial things? Feels like putting on a show. That was how he evaluated it. If you insist on experiencing these boring things, you should go date a college boy. He laughed mockingly. He chased excitement, power, and money. To him, those small things were a waste of time. He would rather casually toss me a bank card to dismiss me. So I put away all my girlish feelings and clumsily stepped into his world. I learned to calculate interests with interests amid extravagance and endless toasts. And that list, which carried my earliest love, ended without a trace. Not a single item was ever completed. But later, I discovered that for Lily, just because she mentioned it casually, he would personally squat by a pile of firewood, covered in ash, roasting the most authentic sweet potato. Only then did I suddenly understand. It wasn't that he didn't want to do those things. He just felt that I wasn't worth it. Not worth his time. Holding the phone, his tone was excited. "The first thing, making breakfast together. We can do it now, okay?" I closed my eyes, exhausted. "Gabriel, don't do this. I'm already married. You have someone you truly like. I also have someone I want to cherish. Let me go." He stood up abruptly. "I don't love Lily. That bitch. That slut." She kept whispering in my ear that my childhood friend only married her to beat me, to disgust me, that he never loved her. She said it was all my fault, that I should be responsible for her life. And it made me so guilty I couldn't see my own heart clearly. "I almost forgot if you hadn't said it. It's all her fault. All her fault." Chapter 17. Is this okay? Gabriel soaked tissues with perfume and pressed them onto Lily's face. One after another. The intense grapefruit scent was almost suffocating. "It was this bitch's perfume that made me scold you, right?" Lily whimpered in pain. It reminded me of some ancient form of torture. I turned my head away, refusing to look at the scene any longer. Ever since that conversation that day, I had stopped eating. So Gabriel brought Lily over, and tortured her over and over again in front of me, naively trying to revive my concern through cruelty. Ever since the last time he forced Lily to drink 20 bottles of red wine and I spoke up to stop it. It was as if he had discovered a whole new world. Whenever I refused to comply, he would torture Lily to force me to speak. "Can you let her go?" I fought back the churning nausea in my stomach. What's between us never had anything to do with her. I didn't leave you because you loved someone else. I left because I don't love you anymore. Do you understand that or not? Gabriel acted as if he hadn't heard a word. "Eva, you loved me the most. When I had no money, you'd leave the chicken legs and ribs from the boxed meals for me to eat. How could you not love me?" I was on the verge of collapse. That love back then was real, but so is the absence of love now. He seemed deaf to it all. He took out his phone, excitement flashing in his eyes as he pointed at a list. "Today's activity is bathing a puppy together. Just wait, I'll have someone send a dog over right now." I bit my lip hard, watched him dial the number on his own phone. An hour later, the police smashed the door open. Gabriel froze in shock for a split second. Instinctively, he reached out to drag me toward the window to jump. But David, who rushed in, smashed a brutal punch straight into his face. Gabriel staggered and collapsed onto the ground. David pulled me tightly into his arms. That bastard was too cautious. We caught some of his underlings and got a rough location, but he never let anyone near the core area. We could never pinpoint his exact address until just now, when he used his own phone to make that call. "Eva, I'm sorry. I came late." I let my tears soak into David's coat. All the strength I had been forcing myself to hold on to completely collapsed. It's not late. Chapter 18. Lily went mad. After being tormented by Gabriel for 2 days, she completely lost her sanity. Her family didn't pursue the matter. They simply signed 3 projects with Gabriel's family. Gabriel went mad too. His family quickly submitted a psychiatric evaluation report, severing him from legal responsibility. But we all knew it was fake. People with sufficient resources usually prepare such talismans in advance, just in case. David asked softly, "Eva, do you want to punish him? He'll be forcibly treated in a psychiatric hospital for half a year, which just happens to be." I shook my head and looked out the window. I felt like I might be going mad too. Since being rescued, I've found no interest in anything. Sometimes I drift off into sleep, half-conscious, and my dreams are filled with Gabriel. Sometimes it's the careless smile from when we first met. Sometimes it's the twisted curl of his lips when he kidnapped me. David never shows a trace of discomfort in front of me, but I overheard him quietly telling my mom, "Don't worry, Eva just needs time." I think the way I am now is probably not normal. Chapter 19. One day, I decided to talk to David face to face. You know, I've been entangled with Gabriel for a long time. I was with him since I was a girl, and I feel like I've been completely changed. I keep jumping back and forth in time that's already gone. Sometimes I don't even know which day I'm living in. It must have caused you a lot of trouble too, right? By the end, my voice was so low it was almost inaudible. It felt like from the moment we met, David had always been dragged down by me. He helped me make plans, taught me, brought my mom abroad, and even on the wedding day, he searched desperately for me. He spent entire days me. Yet I couldn't even focus my attention on him. That wasn't fair. But truly letting him go, at this very moment, felt unbearably painful. David listened quietly to all my disordered words, but his eyes gradually lit up. "Eva, I'm really glad you can take the initiative to talk to me about this. Trauma can cause dissociation and flashbacks. These are all normal responses." He thought for a moment. "Eva, my life has been smooth sailing since I was young. Everything I wanted was within easy reach, and I almost fell into nihilism. But then I happened to meet you at the most confused point in my life. You showed me the resilience of life. I think you're amazing. You were hurt, suppressed. Yet you didn't sink into resentment. Instead, you firmly saved yourself." He looked straight into my eyes and said each word carefully. "I will stay by your side until the shadows completely disperse." I felt a quiet happiness rise in my heart. When I lifted my head, I saw the hydrangeas my mom had planted in the yard. A few days ago, the rain had been heavy. They were beaten down, stripped bare. I almost thought they wouldn't survive. Yet today, they had bloomed again. The blue-purple petals were even more vivid under the sunlight, as if declaring the resilience of life. Chapter 20. Gabriel, extra story. It didn't take Gabriel long to return to the world of power and prestige. A disaster that would have been devastating for ordinary people was easily neutralized through layer upon layer of maneuvering by his family. But he became increasingly obsessive and gloomy. The villa was filled with enormous portraits of Eva. Day and night, he barely slept. His mother couldn't bear to watch him sink like this. One day, a girl was brought before him. She had brows, eyes, and facial contours strikingly similar to Eva's. Only her eyes lacked Eva's later sharpness and clarity. They held nothing but cautious eagerness to please. But that was enough. Gabriel dismissed the servants. He walked toward her step by step. He raised his hand and held it there for a long time. In the end, he didn't touch her. Instead, he had crates of strong liquor brought in. He stared at the girl and drank, gulp after gulp, until her face completely overlapped with Eva's in his vision, until the last trace of clarity in his mind was numbed by alcohol. He told himself, yes, this is her. Sometimes, he would buy the cheapest boxed meals from film sets, and make her eat them bite by bite in front of him, forbidding her to eat the meat. Sometimes, he would buy piles upon piles of luxury goods, and make her angrily throw them out the door. She complied with everything. At those moments, her side profile was almost indistinguishable from the real thing. But whenever she subconsciously looked up and gave him a flattering smile, an overwhelming emptiness and disgust would instantly swallow him whole. One night, deep into the darkness, Gabriel was drunk beyond measure. He stared at that face so similar to Eva's, his eyes unfocused. "Eva," he murmured, reaching out to touch her cheek. But his fingertips only cut uselessly through the air. "Come on, let's get married. I'll give you the best wedding." The girl shrank back into the corner in terror. She didn't dare move. She even forgot to imitate Eva's tone. Forgot to softly respond as expected. "Yes, get married." Gabriel laughed foolishly. "You said you wanted a wedding by a cliff. You wanted your mother to be there watching you marry me." The absurd and obsessive idea of a cliffside wedding began to grow wildly in Gabriel's drunken mind. He grabbed his car keys, slammed past the stiff, frozen girl, and staggered out the door. The sports car roared recklessly onto the winding mountain road. Perhaps the cold wind gave him a fleeting moment of clarity. But the next day, people said, that drunk madman never hesitated. He drove straight off the cliff.